Nigga, we on worldwide television. Can you fight this nigga talking mad shit, man?
No, because you're a piece of shit.
I, Jake Joseph Paul, will knock out, defeat, and embarrass Anthony Joshua.
In his second fight at heavyweight against a bona fide knockout artist.
The boxing community has just seen something completely out of the ordinary. After Anthony Joshua's demolition job left everyone stunned, Mike Tyson went all out for Jake Paul. Paul's shattered jaw and swagger were smashed, revealing to everyone that he is nothing more than hot air wrapped in false confidence. When Tyson gave Paul a vicious verbal beating that made him appear like a total joke, the entire place went crazy.
Down to the body with the right hand for Anthony Joshua. There's a big left now.
On December 19, 2025, reality collapsed. Anthony Joshua entered the ring and engaged Jake Paul in combat. Paul wasn't just knocked down when the dust settled. He was totally ruined. Everyone watching sat there in utter horror as his jaw was destroyed and his ego was crushed. There was a buzz of utter disbelief across the entire venue, not only because of how violent it became, but also because everyone witnessed Jake Paul's years of internet bullshit and trash talk completely destroyed by Paul had spent years constructing this entire act on pointless threats and attention-grabbing antics, continuously boasting that he could destroy everyone from modern champions to old-school legends. None of that noise mattered after those final rounds, and things became much more bizarre when Mike Tyson charged in, prepared to destroy this young hotshot in a way that was utterly brutal and unforgettable.
Really is. Oh, the uppercut, and he took it! Jake Paul took it!
Jake Paul had created the impression of being totally fearless and untouchable up until this point. He never stopped boasting that he was the greatest warrior alive and that he could destroy anyone who dared to confront him. He was frequently featured in press briefings, social media tirades, and innumerable video clips. Legendary icons including Mike Tyson and Anthony Joshua.
Oh, the right hand right! Oh!
Even if he does land his best shot at the moment, not that much is going to happen.
Loud promises, persistent threats, and the unbearable smugness he wore like a badge were all part of the promotion game. The man was continually promoting himself as this invincible force that could handle anything, creating drama and running his mouth. However, in terms of his real combat prowess,
Hills often told a very different story.
No one's done more for the sport of boxing in the past decade than myself, so I think if people really cared about boxing, they'd want me to win, but
Paul's entire mindset was based on a false premise. His dubious victory over Mike Tyson in November 2024 served as his primary source of legitimacy. Every time someone questioned his qualifications, that one fight became his go-to evidence. He made sure no one forgot it. He wasn't a celebrity on the internet dressing up. He had defeated a living legend and was a real fighter. After Anthony Joshua defeated Jake Paul via knockout tonight, Paul claimed that the brutal strike in the video broke his jaw. Let's dissect this. Former world champion twice. Go ahead to December 19, 2025, Anthony Joshua crossed those ropes. Everyone could tell this wasn't going to be another hype-filled theatrical circus act as soon as the opening bell rang. Joshua had entire and utter control. His every shot served as a reminder that true victors are more than just talkers. They put a stop to fights and administer and receive punishment. It was impossible to ignore Jake Paul's injuries halfway through the game. His jaw broke completely, and with each subsequent punch, the confidence he had been carrying about for years began to crumble. Paul's normally smug and arrogant countenance changed to one of genuine shock and pain. He had squandered months asserting his supremacy, disparaging legends, and promising triumph. However, none of that had prepared him for what was taking place in front of him.
Messages are lighting up, everyone wondering what the hell is happening, and Joshua continues to chop down Paul. Joshua, the Predator, counter right. There's the right hand.
I'm a very respectful guy, brought up by a good family, but if I can kill you, I will kill you. That's just how I am.
everything became much more intense due to the audience's response, as they witnessed the total collapse of a boxer who had built all on words rather than real skill. They cheered for Joshua with an amazing mixture of delight and awe. As a video of Paul being physically abused began to circulate, social media went bananas, exposing someone whose trash talk was insufficient to justify harsh punishment. It was impossible to ignore the contrast between this stark reality and Paul's pre-fight boasting. People were witnessing the administration of justice rather than only witnessing a battle. At this point, hype gave way to true skill and was totally destroyed. This was far more than just an additional point in Paul's losing column. This was a pivotal moment when his deficiencies were made public in the most embarrassing way possible. Joshua's triumph, however, was only the start. After the bout, Mike Tyson, who had already tangled with Paul and knew precisely what he was made of, appeared. He had a completely electrifying energy. He was clearly furious. Paul was cornered by Tyson, who then began verbally abusing him. Each word was a knockout blow in and of itself. Furthermore, there was nowhere to go for someone who had earned a living by inciting controversy and speaking negatively. Tyson's vicious verbal attack immediately destroyed Paul's pitiful justifications. His assertions that he was holding back, his strategy talk, and his prior victories. Paul's public character finally collapsed during this meeting, revealing to the boxing world one harsh, uncomplicated truth. The man could talk endlessly, but he...
And it almost... Oh, there's a left hook.
After Joshua's crushing victory, Mike Tyson didn't just stroll into that arena. Like a natural force, he charged in. In an instant, the whole mood shifted. After witnessing Jake Paul's jaw being totally smashed, fans quickly turned all of their attention to Tyson because they knew something very enormous was going to happen. Tyson's gaze was filled with unadulterated disbelief and fury. You could sense the tension in the room reaching a breaking point as soon as he drew. Close to Paul, this wasn't some kind of words of support or congratulations.
He looked angry up there. I've never seen him look so fired up. He was giving it the throat slashing gestures. He wants to hurt Jake Paul.
Paul was cornered by Tyson, who then unleashed a verbal barrage that sliced through Paul's hype like a razor blade. You act tough and run your mouth, but when it counts, you break apart. Tyson let out a shout, and their comments struck with more force than any blow Joshua had delivered minutes before. Tyson's total control was what made this verbal assault even more vicious. This wasn't an irate fan or a random hater yelling from the stands. In fact, Tyson had previously engaged in combat with Paul, absorbing his blows and going the distance with him. Every word that came out of Tyson's mouth held the strength of actual experience. He didn't have to become excited. Paul, who had spent months disparaging legends, talking trash online, and saying he was unbeatable, suddenly seemed like a young child who had been caught lying. His past rang spoke for itself. I wasn't going all out, or this time was different, despite his pitiful attempts to defend himself. Just intensified Tyson's brutal grilling. Tyson's merciless gaze and raw honesty tore apart every justification and deflection. Separate in front of...
Respectfully. That's just the mentality we have to have as fighters. I don't know if any other fighter thinks that way. Maybe they're a bit more tame. But the things I watch and the way my mind works, when you're in that ring, it's a dangerous place to be and anything can happen. You hope your opponent leaves the ring safely, but if they don't, you know, you still have to go to bed at night knowing that you've just done your...
The excitement of the crowd was unbelievable. While some people cheered in sheer glee, enjoying every moment of this public destruction of someone who never knew when to shut up, others stood there in shock, their jaws dropped. Every stride Paul took backward was recorded by cameras, and it was deeply felt by every person in that building. This was more than just someone being verbally abused. This was an instance of unadulterated pure truth. Social media exploded. Within minutes, videos of Tyson confronting Paul went viral, with hashtags like Jake Paul destroyed and Tyson unleashed exploding up. The physical pounding was no longer the only aspect of the act. Paul's entire ego was being torn apart.
I was thinking too, maybe Tank isn't used to being the B-side.
Paul had a full breakdown. He was bleeding, limping, and completely embarrassed. He was unable to defend his dignity or save face. In a matter of seconds, all of his online swagger, his boasts about defeating legends, and his viral moments of belittling opponents fell apart. His pitiful justifications, the usual "I was taking it easy" bullshit, were worthless. Paul was now fully exposed for who he really was as a result of Tyson's remarks and Joshua's knockdown. Someone who had a lot to say but was unable to support it. The psychological harm was severe. His online persona, which was based on conceit and stage drama, was quickly shattered. Both supporters and detractors had a great time posting videos, mocking the collapse and applauding the demise of a fighter who had lived by using his mouth rather than his hands.
Odds are high because Anthony Joshua is out there saying that he's gonna kill.
Murder. The devastation was exacerbated by boxing luminaries' thoughts. Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder kept everything authentic. Although harsh, their assessment was entirely correct. He has the ability to run his mouth. He has the ability to generate buzz. However, he doesn't fight in a way that is appropriate for this sport. Anthony Joshua didn't have to say anything as he stood close by and saw the mayhem. His subdued demeanor spoke volumes. Paul had been totally controlled by this individual in the ring. Witnessing the collapse of boxing's purported future in front of the world, the accuracy of this verbal thrashing was just demonstrated by Tyson's prior encounter with Paul. There's no turning back when a legend like Mike Tyson calls out your bluff. In the eyes of the boxing fraternity, Jake Paul had lost all credibility as a credible boxer. He was now merely a sideshow performer rather than a serious competitor, someone whose mouth was larger than his capacity. Everyone learned lessons that night that extended far beyond the actual altercations. Real talent cannot be replaced by fake drama, trash talk, or social media celebrity. True dedication comes from a genuine heart. The brutal, ruthless reality of real boxing absolutely destroyed Paul's entire empire of boasting, controversy, and self-promotion. Tyson's role in the narrative was entirely symbolic. He stood for unadulterated honesty, demonstrating that hype cannot endure on its own when the bell rings. The fight on December 19, 2025 turned into something more. It turned into an utter truth moment. Paul's reputation, which was based solely on noise, was brutally ruined that night. When it was all over, the truth was extremely evident. Paul had the ability to run his mouth. He was capable of packing arenas. He might increase views and encourage fights. However, the audience began to watch and actual punches began to land. As those bright lights turned on, he was completely incapable of fighting like a true champion. There was no room for debate after Joshua's physical devastation and Tyson's brutal confrontation. Words without substance have no significance, and celebrity without true talent can vanish in an instant. Paul's chapter, at least this portion of it, is a prime illustration of conceit, overconfidence, and what occurs when hype and reality collide.